Hi guys, Ryan from Code Ninjas here, and what we're going to do today is go over building a simple spaceship. Now I know you guys had a couple questions on it, and you probably have some really cool spaceships designed, but we're going to make the very simple version here, which is just going to be a single part, and then you can attach this script to whatever you want. The script is going to be attached in the video, so you guys can go ahead and download that and attach that to whatever your spaceship is. But I want to go over the code that we're doing here so you understand what we're adding to your model. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the workspace and we're going to add in a new model. And that model is going to have a part. And we'll come over here and we'll scale this thing out. So we have a little, there's our plane right there. Then what we're going to do is make sure you're on the Model tab. And we're going to come over here to Advanced Objects. And then what we're going to need is a seat. All right. And we're going to come over here to move, because obviously, let's select our seat. We would like our seat to be kind of in a better spot in the plane, so you're not kind of sitting in the corner there. All right, and one last thing we need to do with this setup is come up to the Create tab here. We're going to need to add a weld, and we're going to want to make sure that our seat is welded to our part. So now this means that when you go to take off, you're not sitting in a flying seat and the rest of your plane goes away. Now be aware, if you have a more complex spaceship that you've made out of a couple parts, you're going to want to make sure that they're all welded together, or your spaceship very well could fall apart as you're trying to fly around. All right, so that's all we're going to do to construct the spaceship. So now what we're going to want to do is add the script. So what you want to do is come down here to the starter player, and you're going to start player scripts, and then you're going to add a new local script. All right. So you can clear out the hello world, and I'm going to get rid of the zoom because we don't need that anymore. And we will instead just make this a little bigger so you can see what we've got going on here. All right. So, setting this thing up. The first thing we are going to want to do is create a reference to our spaceship. So local spaceship is going to equal to your workspace dot model. Now we renamed it. We could have renamed it spaceship, but we're going to keep it simple. It's our model. Okay. And then what we're going to want to do is declare the primary part. So this way, when you have a primary part, what this means is all the other parts in the model are going to move along with it in relation to it. So you don't have to worry about updating all the different stuff. You just update the primary part. It also makes our life easier in coding because we don't have to worry about, oh, what's the thing that we're using to calculate, position and things like that. It's all just the primary part. And so just set it and forget it. That's the best way to do it. And so this is just going to be the spaceship and the part that we added in there. In our model, obviously, it's very simple, but if you have a more complex spaceship, it's harder to keep track of all those parts. And then the last important thing that we're going to need to know is obviously the seat. And that's just going to be your spaceship dot seat. Okay, so now we've got all the stuff from our model set up. What are some other things that we're going to have to add? What we're going to want to do here, let me add in some comments, make it easier for you guys to follow. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add in the run service, And what the run service does is it basically has a bunch of functions that are really handy for managing your gameplay. So what we're going to use is the run service wait, and what that means is we're going to make sure that our calculations are in sync with the game, so we don't get stuck in a loop calculating position over and over and over again without the rest of the game going on. So that's why we're doing this. So how you get a service, the same way in most of these games, is just go to game and you call the function get service, and then you pass in as a string the name of the service that you want. So we want the run service. And that's all there is to that. Okay. The next thing we're going to want to do is we're doing physics, right? So what's going to be important to us here is the body position. All right. And so if you come over here to the part and you were to say, start typing in body, you see all these cool things. And these are all different ways that we can calculate physics based on the movement to your part. We are just going to use the position and the gyro to calculate the position and the rotation in which it's going in. All right, so to do this, we're just going to create a new variable here called body pos. It's short for body position. And whenever you add something new to your script, you use instance.new. And then you say what you're going to create, which is a body pos, body position. And then you need to give it the parent, which is going to be our spaceship.primary part. Now you need to make sure you're putting it on the part here and not the model itself. That won't work. You need it to be on the part. Okay. And so your body pos has a couple things we need to set up. The first thing is going to be the max force. So, you know, how fast can it go toward that position? And since we're not flying yet or doing anything about it, it's just going to be a vector 3. A vector 3, now this gets complicated. A vector 3 is a position that shows a magnitude. So basically, you might need to do a little homework. We're not going to go over it in this video, but that's what a vector 3 is. So it's going to kind of show us, okay, we're going in this direction. It has an x, a y, and a z coordinate, and it has a magnitude. So it'll say which direction we're kind of floating on. And that's what allows the computer to calculate these physics. The other things that it has here is the d variable, which is usually just like the constant of 10. And then the next thing we have here is the p variable, which is essentially the force, the rate at which it accelerates toward your max velocity. So here we'll just set it to a fairly high value, like 10,000, and that should work. Now that's the position. I also said we're going to need to understand the rotation. And that's what this body gyro is. So local body gyro. And again, we're going to add a new component to it, and that's your body gyro. And again, it needs to go on the part. And then same thing as the position. You're going to have to set the D component, which is 10. And then you're also going to want to set, oops, I did body pos here. That's not what we want. We want the gyro. And then you're also going to have to set your max torque, which is how fast can this thing turn around. And then here, again, it's going to be a new vector 3. All right, cool. So that's the basic physics stuff, but there's one more thing that we're going to do here. So you have a couple options on how you want to steer your spaceship. So one thing you could do is get the mouse position and try to calculate it to steer toward the mouse. I did that solution. I think it's a little more complex. So what I decided to do instead was to just look at where the camera is, and we're going to send our spaceship toward wherever the camera is. So I hope that works for you guys. If it doesn't, let me know, and we can do another video showing you how to use the mouse position to steer your spaceship or plane or whatever it is. So here we have the camera, and that is just going to be the workspace camera. So just game.workspace.camera. We don't need to do anything special here. We just need to know where it is so that we can use it as a reference. Now, two easy variables here. Local.flying. So we're going to want to tell our script whether we're flying or not. And obviously we're going to start off not flying. And then we're going to create a speed variable. In this script, we're not changing our speed, but I'm putting it in here so that if you guys want to change the script and change the speed, you know where to do that now. And you don't have to recalculate all the physics. The physics will all be the same. You just have to change the speed. There. So we're going to need 3 functions essentially. So the first function we need is a function called onChildAdded. So basically this is going to be when someone sits in the seat of your plane. So the first thing we're going to do when we come in here is check to see that the part.className is equal to weld. That basically means when your character sits in the seat, they get welded to it, right? So that's what we're checking to see to make sure that happened. And then every Roblox character has a torso. So that's how we're going to tell who this character is and how we're going to interact with them. So this part.part1 is going to be what every Roblox character has, and that's how we get them. And then we're just going to make sure that we do in fact have this torso when we didn't get something else there. And then we're going to do something. So what are we going to do? What we're going to need to do, because we're using the camera, if the camera's too close to the user, this isn't going to work because it's going to get all wobbly because it can't calculate the distance correctly. So we're going to want to make sure that we set the character's minimum distance of their camera here. So how we do that is we're going to have to get the character. And that's pretty straightforward. That's just going to be this torso here. Oh wait, what did I do here? Sorry. Oh, I didn't finish the rest of this. Sorry. We're checking to see that we have it, so we can just check to see if nil's the value. All right, and now we can get the torso parent, and that's going to be your character. All right, and then from the character, once we have the character, we can actually get your information about your player. So that's going to, how you do that is you do game.players, and then you can call the function get player from character, and then you just have to pass it that character that we have. So now that you have the player, what we can do is it's called camera min zoom distance, and you can play around with it to see if it works. I'm going to set it to something decent like 50. And then once we have the camera set up, we can go ahead and fly. So we're calling the fly function here. So obviously that's the second function that we're going to create, fly. And when we're flying, we're obviously going to set flying equal to true, because we're about ready to take off here. And while we're flying, we're going to do something. Now, here is where all that magic occurs. So the next, what do we got here? 5 lines are kind of the critical part of this. So we're going to get that, if you remember, that run service here, and we're going to say rendered step wait. So again, this is what is syncing your function to the game so that you're not running these calculations way more than you should. So what do we need to do? First of all, now that we're in here, we can now set our max force. And you can play with these numbers, but you should make them pretty big. So I'm just going to go with 40,000 across the board. And basically, we're going to do the same with our torque on our body gyro. And again, it doesn't matter too much, but you want to set it to something big. All right, so now we want to calculate our new position. So how we're going to do that is we're going to set our new body position equal to, now we're going to take our spaceship primary part position. So that is the position that your spaceship currently is in. And then we're going to add to it some of our calculations here. So what do the calculations look like? The first thing we're going to want to do is we want to get the distance between the camera, where the camera is pointing, and your spaceship. So how we do that is just spaceship dot primary part dot position. And what we're going to do is we're going to subtract the camera position from it. So that's the camera dot C-frame dot position. Okay. Oops, sorry. Dot P. Doesn't have a position. All right. And then the result of that, we're going to need to take the unit of that and times it by the speed. And that's going to update every frame the position that we want, moving toward your camera. So now that we have our position, we're going to want to make sure we're rotated the right way. So you guessed it, that's the body gyro. And instead of position, we're going to use the C-frame. So the C-frame is kind of how you calculate, how ROBLOX calculates these movements. So position, we kind of did the calculation ourselves, and we use the C-frame from the camera. For gyro, we're just going to use the C-frame. So we're going to create a new C-frame, and that takes 2 parameters. So it's going to take the camera dot the current position, and then we're also going to pass it the spaceship primary position. So that's kind of, hey, you're taking the spaceship primary position and rotating it to the camera position, right? That's what we're trying to do here. All right, and that's all we need for our fly script. Things are moving along quite nicely. So when we're flying, after we're done flying, we're gonna have to stop flying, right? So we're gonna need to make a quick function for that. And here, you guys, if you want to get more creative, you can. Basically, this thing, what I'm going to do here is just tell this thing to stop. So basically, you're going to do the same thing you did when you initialize this, is just create these new vector 3s to set to the max force and the max torque. And that's basically telling it, like, okay, just stop stop what you're doing here and, you know, reset. So we're ready to go. And then obviously your flying is no longer going to be true. It'll be false. All right. Now, one last thing that we're going to have to do in this script, and that is attached to the player sitting and unsitting in the seat. So how you do that, you may be familiar of this with other scripts, but basically you just say seat dot child removed. So seat has an event called child removed. We are going to connect to that. And then we're going to say when child removed, we're going to call stop flying. Oops. And remember, you don't want the parentheses after that. The child removed connect will take care of calling the function. And so on child removed, you're also going to need child added. And again, we just connect it. And then this time we're going to connect it to our onChild added function. All right. So that should be it. So let's give this a test drive. All right, there we are. I hop in my little plane and we're not going, and it says I've made a boo-boo. So let's go check it out. All right, local script line 41. You may have caught that issue. Hopefully did. We're making new vector 3s here. We're going to want to save that change for sure and give this another go. All right, come over here. Oh, there we go. We're flying around. Look at that. All right, and we're here, and then I'm gonna jump out, and here's my plane. Stops, back in, flying around, jumping out. There we go. Oh, got a little bug. So the reentry script is a little weird. You may want to just destroy your plane or respawn your plane once you stop flying. But there you go. That's the basics on how to do it.